It doesn't start with a moment you can point to. There's no single day where everything breaks, no loud crash, no obvious turning point that divides your life into before and after. It starts slowly, quietly, invisibly. You're a child, maybe 6, maybe 8, maybe even younger. And somewhere along the way, you realize something most children should never have to learn. The people who are supposed to hold you can't. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they're struggling with their own pain. Maybe they're physically present, but emotionally distant. Maybe they're unpredictable, loving one moment, unavailable the next. Or maybe they're simply absent in ways that don't leave visible scars, but leave something much deeper. And without anyone sitting you down to explain it, your mind adapts. You begin to shrink. You start paying attention to everything. Tone, mood, silence, tension in the air. You learn how to read faces before words are spoken. You learn when it's safe to speak and when it's safer to stay quiet. You learn how to keep the peace, how to avoid conflict, how to make yourself easier to handle. And just like that, you stop being a child, not physically, but emotionally, psychologically. You step into a role you were never meant to carry. You become the calm one, the responsible one, the one who doesn't cause problems, the one who understands everything, even when no one understands you, and the world rewards you for it. You're so mature. You're so strong. You're so easy to deal with. You never give us trouble, but what they don't see is what it cost you to become that way. Because strength, when it's forced too early, isn't strength, it's survival. And survival always comes with a price. When a child learns that their needs are inconvenient, they stop having needs. When a child learns that emotions cause problems, they stop expressing emotions. When a child learns that love must be earned, they start performing for it. This is how you disappear. Not dramatically, not in a way that alarms people, but slowly, quietly, completely. You stop asking for help. You stop expecting comfort. You stop believing someone will come when you need them. And instead, you become the one who holds everything together. You become the emotional anchor in a place where you were supposed to feel safe enough to drift. But here's the truth no one told you back then. You were never supposed to be the one holding it all together. As you grow older, that pattern doesn't just disappear. It evolves. It follows you into every part of your life. It shapes how you think, how you feel, how you connect with others, how you see yourself. You become independent, almost too independent. You pride yourself on not needing anyone, but beneath that independence is a quiet belief. If I rely on someone, I might get hurt. So you carry everything alone. You struggle to receive love, even when it's genuine, because love feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar things don't always feel safe. You give endlessly to others, your time, your energy, your attention. But when it's your turn to receive, something in you hesitates. You say, I'm fine, even when you're overwhelmed. You say, don't worry about me, even when you wish someone would. And the hardest part? You might not even realize you're still in survival mode, because when you've lived in it long enough, it becomes your normal. Peace feels strange. Rest feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels like something is wrong. So you keep moving. You keep achieving. You keep proving your worth over and over again, hoping that one day it will finally feel like enough. But enough doesn't come from proving. It comes from healing. And healing doesn't begin with fixing yourself. It begins with seeing yourself, really seeing yourself. Not the version of you that performs, not the version of you that copes, but the version of you that had to become all of this just to survive. Because that child, they're still there, still waiting, still holding feelings they never got to express, still carrying questions they never got answers to. Why didn't anyone notice? Why did I have to handle everything alone? Why did I feel so invisible, even when I was right there? And maybe the most painful question of all, was it my fault? Let's make something clear right now. It was never your fault, not your sensitivity, not your emotions, not your needs. You were not too much. You were just unseen. Children don't ask for perfection. They don't need flawless parents or perfect homes. They need presence. They need consistency. They need safety. They need someone to say, you don't have to carry this alone. And when that doesn't happen, the child adapts, not because they're weak, but because they're incredibly intelligent, because the brain is wired for one thing above all else. A child will sacrifice authenticity to maintain attachment. They will silence themselves to stay loved. They will become whoever they need to be to not feel abandoned. That's not failure. That's survival at its most powerful level. But what saved you then can quietly limit you now. Maybe you notice it in your relationships. You overgive, you overthink, you overanalyze every word, every shift in tone, every pause in a conversation. You try to fix things before they break. You try to prevent problems before they even exist. And even when someone genuinely cares about you, you're waiting for it to change, waiting for it to disappear, waiting for the moment it confirms what you've always feared. So you stay guarded, even when you want to open, because vulnerability doesn't feel safe. It feels like a risk. And you learned a long time ago not to take risks with your heart. Or maybe you see it in how you treat yourself. You're hard on yourself. You push yourself beyond your limits. You tie your worth to what you accomplish, what you produce, how useful you are. Rest feels like laziness. Slowing down feels like failure. Doing nothing feels unbearable. Because deep down, there's a belief. If I stop, I'll lose my value. But your value was never something you had to earn. It was something you always had. You just weren't taught that. And this is where everything begins to change. Not when you become stronger, not when you achieve more, but when you finally allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding for so long. Because healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with who you were before you had to become someone else. It's about going back, not to stay in the pain, but to understand it. To sit with that younger version of yourself and say, I see you. I understand you. You didn't deserve that. This is the part most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. It brings up grief, anger, sadness, loneliness. It brings up memories you thought you had buried. But that discomfort, it's not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is finally moving. Because for the first time, you're not running from yourself. You're turning toward yourself. You might grieve the childhood you didn't get, the laughter that was missing, the safety you deserved, the moments where you needed someone and no one showed up. And that grief matters because it validates your experience. It tells your mind and body, that was real, that mattered, and it should have been different. And slowly, something begins to shift. You start to soften, not in a weak way, but in a safe way. You start to realize that you don't have to carry everything anymore. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to be everything for everyone. You start asking yourself new questions. What do I need right now? What would it look like to take care of myself? What would it feel like to not carry everything alone? And at first, it feels unfamiliar because you're stepping out of survival mode and into something new, something softer, something calmer, something real. You begin to set boundaries, not as walls to keep people out, but as protection to keep yourself safe. You teach yourself, it's safe to be me. There will still be hard days. Days where you fall back into old patterns. Days where you feel small again. Days where that younger version of you feels loud and overwhelming. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means you're healing. Because healing isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up for yourself again and again.